We're looking together at question 6 in chapter 4, and this time I've asked you to turn to Ephesians chapter 1, and one of the best passages in the scriptures, one of the most exciting and interesting and powerful and encouraging passages, a passage that I love to read. And so I want you to take a few moments to think upon the things that are said there. I've told you to have a look at verse 19 through to 20. Really, you need to go back to verse 17 to get the full picture of what's being said here before we come into focus on 19 and 20. In this passage, Paul is writing and he's saying, here is my prayer for you guys. I pray that God, and it's focused on God. Now keep that in mind. It talks about Jesus, but it's focusing that you would come to know God better. And then it talks about Jesus in that context. I'm praying for you that God would give you a spirit of wisdom, a spirit of revelation. He would open the eyes of your heart so that you could understand, so that you could grasp what God has done for you, the spiritual life and the inheritance that is yours. So he goes on and he talks about the inheritance, which is similar to a discussion we've had in earlier questions in this chapter, that God would send his power like he did for Jesus and raised him back to life and gave him spiritual life and resurrected life after the grave. And he's saying, I wish that you could grasp how great is the inheritance that you've got. Consider what he was able to do with Jesus, and he's wanting to do that in your life as well. So this is Ephesians chapter 1, and of course the parallel passage is found in Romans chapter 8. But the Romans chapter 8 just highlights a distinction in this that I think is important to us. In Romans chapter 8, again it says, if the power that raised Jesus from the dead comes on you, he will give life to your mortal bodies. So when we're talking about Jesus, it's talking about the fact that he was raised back to a resurrected life. But in Romans 8, it makes it clear that what he's talking about is that you would understand the inheritance that you have now in your mortal body. If that power that could lift Jesus up from the dead came and lived in you, that he would give you life now, even while you're still in your mortal body. This is the power that lies for me. So, at least in my opinion, these two verses are complementary and well worth reading. But the beauty of that Ephesians chapter 1 passage is just magnificent. Imagine that you and I could understand, could really grasp what God is doing, what God wants to do and has offered to do, the great plan of God, that he would do this for us in this world, that we would have his spirit, that we would have life, that we would have an unconquerable spirit and a hope and effectiveness in this world. Wonderful passage, and I hope that you get something out of studying it.